global economy is on the verge of collapse, with all the symptoms of an imminent crisis. Falling oil prices, enterprises going bankrupt, mass layoffs, rising prices, and lowering wages, all ushered forward by a worldwide pandemic. Despite how bourgeois analytics may see the causes of economic problems, they all agree on one thing: the New World economic crisis will be more destructive than any before. One after another, the largest banks compete to release ever more frightening forecasts. Goldman Sachs predicts the downturn of the American economy by 25%. Morgan Stanley's forecast goes further and predicts a fall of 30%. According to experts, United States GDP may fall by 50%, and unemployment will rise to 30%. There was no such number even during the Great Depression. Due to inflamed competition between Saudi Arabia and Russia, the oil market is collapsing, and the International Monetary Fund recognizes a negative outlook for the entire global economy in 2020. To understand why the world is again shaken by market collapse, what economic crises are, and how to eliminate them, it is necessary to reveal the essential nature of the capitalist system. Capitalism is a socioeconomic formation based on the private form of ownership of the means of production. All land, resources, mines, minerals, factories, and machines, all this belongs to private persons, the capitalists. The capitalists utilize wage labor for their production of goods or services. Through the exploitation of wage labor, they make a profit for themselves, which they use to further expand their own productive enterprise. The most devastating historical moments of capitalism have always been crises of overproduction. In the pursuit of profit, capitalists seek to sell as many goods as possible. But when this accumulated hoard of goods cannot be sold on the market, the crisis of overproduction is felt. Capitalists lose profit, fall short on debt payments, and ultimately go bankrupt. In order to reduce costs and maintain maximum profits, capitalists shutter their unprofitable enterprises and liquidate their workforce on a mass scale. Trade and financial ties are broken. Stocks and bond markets collapse. This is the nature of an economic collapse. Closures of businesses, mass layoffs, salary shortfalls, all this leads to a rapid deterioration in the standard of living and a decrease in the demand for goods. The smaller the workers' incomes become, the fewer the mass of goods that can be sold to them by the capitalists. This is the fundamental contradiction between the desire for capital to expand production and the ability of workers to buy goods. The contradiction between production and consumption, as well as the anarchy of capitalist profiteering, is generated by this main contradiction within capitalism. The root cause of economic crises is based in the very nature of the capitalist economic system itself, in the contradiction between the social nature of production and the private nature of appropriation. Under capitalism, production develops cyclically. Inevitably, the process of production is interrupted by crisis. The period which develops between one crisis and another is called an economic cycle, which consists of 4 phases: crisis, stagnation, recovery, and growth. Crisis is the primary phase of this cycle. At this stage, disturbed proportions of production are manifested and restored. The signs of crisis are first found in the field of exchange, when it becomes difficult to sell goods on the market. The problems of selling goods in one link of the production chain gradually disrupts the entire course of material society. The capitalist who is not sold his goods cannot afford the means of production and thus cannot hire workers. He must go pleading to the bank for a loan. As demand for liquid capital inflates, the banks that do not have enough funds themselves go bankrupt. The exchange panic begins, closing enterprise after enterprise. Workers are fired en masse in a desperate attempt by their former employers to save the investments, causing unemployment to skyrocket. This further reduces the demand for commodities, further worsening the crisis of commodity exchange. The economic decline continues until the proportionality between production and solvent demand is restored. After the crisis, a period of stagnation or depression sets in. The decline in production is stopped, but there is no growth. The number of bank failures and bankruptcies is decreasing. The amount of goods is gradually declining. To keep prices low, the capitalists destroy stockpiles of their own goods, while other stockpiles are bought up by the larger enterprises, only because the consumption process cannot be entirely stopped. After making sure that the crisis is ended, the capitalists begin to seek new applications for their capital. The money supply increases. In order to reach an average rate of profit and reduce prices, capitalists intensify the exploitation of their workers, begin to introduce technical improvements, and upgrade equipment. Depression thus develops into a phase of recovery. As a result of the ongoing technical re-equipment, the demand for machinery and other equipment rises, which allows those capitalists to expand production and to hire additional workers. Unemployment decreases, the demand for goods is growing. The economy reaches a pre-crisis level, and recovery moves towards growth. New plants and factories are being built. The flow of goods to the market is increasing. In the pursuit of profit, capitalists seek to produce and sell as many goods as possible. Overproduction begins anew, but still in its discrete form. Credit, trade orders, and booming financial speculation disguise any impending catastrophe for the time being, until production exceeds demand when a new crisis begins. Particularly hard crises affect the living standards of the working people. Workers are again thrown out of production, mass unemployment returns. Even healthy, skilled people cannot find application for their abilities. During a period of forced inactivity, the body of workers lose their productive skills and qualifications. During crisis, the standard of living sharply decreases, the number of diseases increases, as well as child mortality. Social insurance and unemployment claims do not exist everywhere. Therefore, life for the majority of the world's unemployed becomes unbearable. Capitalists shuffle costs onto the working class by cutting wages and raising prices. Raising taxes and inflation, increasing tariffs, and supply deficiency further reduce the real incomes of workers. Crises also have a severe effect on the petty and middle bourgeoisie, who come to the brink of bankruptcy. Regular crises shaking the world economy show that the capitalist class is not capable of ensuring the normal processes of life and the regular development of productive forces. These hard times reveal the fundamental limitations of capitalism and the necessity of socialism. However, economic crises alone will not lead to the collapse of the capitalist system. Even with significant losses, crises restore proportions between capitalist production and demand, leading to the needed renewal of fixed capital and the opening up of opportunities for new growth. At the same time, depressions exacerbate the contradictions of the capitalist system. With such serious consequences for the life of average people, they undermine the foundations of capitalist power and contribute to the revolutionary motivation within the working class. It is impossible to abolish crises by any reforms, and crisis-free capitalism simply cannot exist. This is a systemic element of capitalism, without which its existence is impossible. Since the main reason for economic crises lies within the existence of capitalism, crises can only be done away with by replacing capitalism with communism. The working class must realize its own interests, to come together to wage class struggle against the capitalist powers and to build a new communist society. The future of mankind in the new world will only become possible through full communism, a world without crises, inequality, wars, and oppression. Stay tuned.